Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Rearden.
Welcome, Dee Forrest, to Coaching in Session. Glad to have you on. Today, we're just going to be talking about your work, health coach, personal trainer. We're also going to be talking about your book, Own Your Wellness. Before we get in, can you give us a bio of who you are? Where did you come from?
Where did I come from? I came from Texas originally. Started off my adult career in retail. I used to for Kenneth Cole for a lot of years. I used to sell cashmere, high-end cashmere. I was working my way up this corporate ladder quite successfully, and I was miserable. I was in my late 20s and I was already just exhausted, working 80-hour weeks, already wearing the golden handcuffs. Decided to get certified as a personal trainer in my downtime, which I didn't have much of. And I just quit my job and picked up some extra shifts, started personal training, quickly filled up my schedule, was a happy camper. The problem was I wasn't really seeing amazing results from my clients. Like they were getting more fit, but it really wasn't fixing what was going on with them. So I went back to school, studied nutrition. That helped a lot. People still had these sort of nagging issues. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I decided to get certified in functional diagnostic nutrition, which gave me a much broader set of tools to use to get to the root issues of what my clients were dealing with. You know, eczema, brain fog, hormone dysregulation, all kinds of gut issues. I had ways to help give them some answers.
I do want to go back a little bit because we all fall into this trap, I believe, at some point, because it's from whether our parents, from our society. I think this is going to be at many points of our conversation today. You talked about the golden handcuffs. What are those?
The money's too good to quit, to make big decisions and big shifts. And, I think a lot of people, if you're lucky, it's a good problem to have nonetheless, but it makes it a little bit harder to make that leap of faith, that leap of finances to start over again.
Very true.
I decided to do it before I had a mortgage, before I had children, and it was the best timing I could have picked.
I find that many people are stuck in their circumstances because they are tied to the money. They are tied to commitment. They do have that mortgage. They do have those children. So for them to just up and go and to find what this, is going to make them fulfilled or what's going to make them happy, they end up unfit. And typically it's both mental and physical. It's not just you gain a couple of pounds because you don't have time to go to the gym, or maybe you don't have time to cook a proper meal. So you're going out and getting fast food every evening for your family. And all of this is a lifestyle. And we all can make time for the things that are important to us. And we do have to give ourselves the mindset of what is important to us. And I just love the title of your book, Own Your Wellness. Like, this is something you have to own. And yet in our world today, many people will make excuses. They will pass it off. I don't have time. This is someone else's fault.
Sure.
My mom, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa. I mean, we can go down the list of how many people we can blame. And we forget to look at ourselves or look in the mirror and say, we are the proponent to our success, and we are also the proponent to our failure. And people, they have a hard time accepting that. So I do want to get straight into that type of logic. Why are people so disassociated with taking accountability?
I'm not sure the why. In fact, figuring out why you want to accomplish whatever it is, whether it be health or otherwise, is a huge piece of what I preach, what I instigate in my own life and with my clients one-on-one. In fact, the beginning of the book starts with figuring out, what is your why? Why do you want to lose 10 pounds? What is that going to give you? Aside from looking better in your jeans, is it going to give you more energy? Is it going to build your self-confidence? Is it going to help you move forward on the path to losing your diabetes diagnosis? Like, why? It has to be a more emotionally charged reason than just looking great, Yeah, I think people, whether we're talking about health or finances or relationships, a lot of times it's just easier to blame it on your circumstance, to blame it on the world around you, a lot you were dealt, and really discourage that. I try to help people get unstuck Like, let's stop doing the same things and let's actually make some changes that are going to be meaningful to your life.
I just wrote a blog. It's talking about all the selves, the self-love, self-care, self-compassion. And you talked about emotional charging or being emotionally charged. People can easily misconstrue what that means because a self-love for someone might be, I had such a rough day at work. Let me go home and eat all this ice cream, or let me eat all of this pizza. So like we have this misconception of what it is, especially with the body positivity going on. I mean, if you are comfortable where you are, stay where you are. But if you're not happy, then change it, right? Like you're not a tree, so you can change if you don't like your scenery. If you don't like where you are, change it. But sometimes our emotions can tell us a lie, a comforting lie. It's like, yeah, you know, like I don't need to change. I'm fine. I'm going to eat this pizza. It's going to make me feel good. But what tends to happen is while you're eating the pizza, you know, it feels good. Your brain is like, oh, this is tasty. And then sure enough, after not all the time, but I would say maybe 45% minimum is, you know, like the people are going to say, I can't believe I ate that whole pizza. I can't believe I ate that whole pint of ice cream. Like I'm disgusting. So now we have all of this negative self-talk where we were driven by our emotions to take action to eat that unhealthy food. And now we are having a mental battle with ourselves and it's emotionally breaking us down into this negative state. Do you find
and so
that
it feeds forward too? You know, it's a domino effect. You know, one of the tricks I've been using for myself lately, I mean, you know, my health is always evolving, you know, and that's the other thing. I think it's really important that maybe we can talk about that later, is just how needs change, our goals should be evolving, and how we're reaching those goals should be changing too. But one of the things I'm using right now to help me is to say to myself, you know, this thing that's hard, whatever it is, you know, how proud of myself will I be when I've accomplished that? You know, I'm not drinking right now, no alcohol whatsoever, right? And coach or not, I do enjoy a glass of wine here and there, right? It's really not that hard, but there are times when I'm out with friends or out with my husband at a nice meal, I want a glass of wine. I remind myself, how proud of yourself will you be tomorrow morning when you had a good night's sleep because you didn't have that wine, when you wake up clear-headed? You know, it's so simple, but it's like, oh God, I'm really going to feel good about that. You know, so instead of focusing on the negative, you know, I'm just going to hate myself for what I'm doing here. How about out of myself will I be when I've done just this one little thing, you know, and it could be just lacing up your sneakers and going for a walk, whatever it is, you know. I'm trying to coach my clients up to the positive as opposed to focusing on that negative spiral. You know, how can we move that negative domino effect to the positive?
What about setbacks? Because people can have a relapse. For example, maybe they are doing really well. They're not getting that glass of wine at dinner, but maybe they do it. And then they just have this sense of remorse. Like, I can't believe I had that glass of wine. I was doing so good, and they just beat themselves up about it.
Right. And what I find traditionally is people will hit these, I call them speed bumps, right? Instead of just getting over the speed bump, using that as a little break, and then continuing on your path that you had already chosen, they stop and then go back home, right? Like if you're driving your car, you hit the speed bump, you're not going to stop and go back home. You're just going to go over the speed bump and continue on your journey. And that sort of all or nothing idea is something I don't know really where it comes from. I don't know enough about human psychology, but I come up against it all the time. You know, it's like, oh, well, had this little digression. I'll start again next week. I'll start again next month. You know, put it on my New Year's resolutions. No, just start now. Get right back on track. You know.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And I do want to get into the conversation of how does one find what they want, like their health. And I know we talked about the why, but this is a little bit different. I'm just going to kind of break it down a little bit because I know people that hate going to the gym. Like they despise going to the gym. Like with every cell in their body, they don't want to be in the gym. Some people, they love to do marathons. Some people love to walk. Some people, they love to just go biking. So you see the people like the cyclists on the road, they're biking 10, 20 miles a day and they love it. They get so much fulfillment in there. And as adults, we don't necessarily try too many things. Like, of course, we might find a fad diet, hear about something here or there. And we say, oh, let me try that. Let me try this. But as a kid, for example, you are trying all of these different things, soccer, football. You're not worried about failing. But, as adults, it's like we are just so nitpicky with what we think we will love or what we think we won't like. And then we don't take much action. So when it comes to fitness or when it comes to health, we think about dieting, we think about having to go to the gym, and all of these things might not be what is for the person. So how would a person, or how do you help someone find their health?
That is very well said, because I actually go into detail almost identical to what you just discussed. And in the book, and I say, listen, it doesn't matter if you hate exercise. Who cares? Okay. You're human. You have to move. Humans move. I have clients I work with. I have one gentleman who's stuck in a wheelchair. His entire right side of his body is paralyzed. I move with him, right? I can get his heart rate up. We're getting stronger, right? You just got to work with what you got. And even if you don't enjoy exercise per se, to your point, think back to when you were younger. What are things that you kind of liked? Maybe you did like getting on a bike. Maybe you should try pickleball and try, make a list for yourself. Okay, I'm going to try these 10 different things and see if just one of them is exciting for me. If we just limit ourselves to going to the gym, then yeah, you're right. A lot of people are going to fail because they don't enjoy that. That's fine. Okay. But you are human. So we have to find ways that we are going to move our bodies every single day. And
do you have also, like a list?
Yeah.
Do you have like a list, for example, a client will come in and you might go through this process. Okay, what don't you like to do? And you say, well, I don't like to do squats. Sure. I don't like to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In that list, it also depends on what this person's goal is, right? So for example, 47-year-old woman, almost 48, and have osteoporosis. Okay. So I have to be very strategic with the movement practices I pick and how much I use every week, right? The cadence of things, how much time I'm spending, because there's a fine line between building muscle and bone versus breaking myself down further. Right. So I have to be very strategic with that. That's going to be very different than my husband, who's in his mid 50s and needs to lose 30 pounds. Right. He and I do not have the exact same movement practices because we have very, very different goals. So once you find some of those things that you enjoy doing, then we work on how do we build out your week, first of all, to start. Okay. And then in about 6 to 8 weeks, how do we evolve that so that you're continually seeing progress?
What are the pros and cons between working out individually and then working out like in a network or with a community of people? I know when you have a client, it's not so much individual, but it is individual because you are just working one-on-one with them. But if you think of I don't want to use this as an example, but I am going to use it as an example. CrossFit. There's a big group of people. It's like 30 people in this room. And some people love that type of workout. And it does bring about a different type of mindset when it comes to working out individually and working out with a group of people. Which do you find is better for someone starting off?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It depends on your personality, right? I'm somewhere between an introvert and an extrovert, depending on the day, right? So after I hang up with you, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out with my trainer in a one-on-one session. And I love those. I love the personalized attention to detail, the way he pushes me. I need that one-on-one. But a couple days a week, I go to a boot camp and I work out with a bunch of other people all together. And I also love that camaraderie, right? But I can't have that one type of workout every single time, right? So for me, I need a little bit of both. For some people, it can be intimidating if you're brand new to exercise to have a bunch of people around you who already know what they're doing, right? That can be intimidating. Or maybe they find it motivating, So I'll be honest with you, like we were talking about trying different types of exercise. you might want to try different types of situations. Maybe it's a small group. Maybe it's a one-on-one trainer situation. Maybe you're working out at home, following something on YouTube, I don't know. Maybe try them all, and maybe a little sprinkle of all those things through the week is the most invigorating for you, because you also want to keep it fresh, right? We don't want to get sort of stuck doing the same stuff all the time.
Yeah, I think that's excellent, because you might not truly understand the love you will have, from working with a group of people unless you put yourself in there. So, test out the waters. Like, don't be afraid to go to the gym by yourself, go to the gym with a friend, get a personal trainer, and then maybe join a class, because most gyms now today, they have like Zumba groups and they have HIIT workout groups and things like that.
Right.
And just because they have these particular classes, understand also that you might not like cycling class, but you might love yoga class. So it's just, you have to figure out what you love.
Right. Yeah. And, to help people get started, if you read the book, there's a secret URL in there that you can only see if you pick up the book. In there, I have kinds of workouts that are lined up for you, videos for you to follow along to, stretching routines for you. And one of the things we haven't touched on that I think differentiates Own Your Wellness from a lot of health books, and trust me, I've read tons and tons and tons of them. And there's always these wonderful little nuggets of wisdom you get every time you read one of these books, right? And then 2 weeks later, you've forgotten it all. Really, I love being able to sort of immerse myself in information. And so throughout the book, we stop talking and learning, and you can fill out questionnaires about how what you just learned is going to apply to your life. And if you don't want to mark up your book, on that same page, you'll find downloadable PDFs so that you can fill them out separately and then reuse them over and over again to continually fine tune your wellness program.
I think that's important for people to realize, that they can read a book and then as they are going along, take notes and hold themselves accountable along the way, versus like, okay, let me, try to get all of this information and then try to regurgitate it at the end. What did I just learn? And that could become debilitating almost, because you're trying to remember everything that you just read and everything that you have to do. And I say, if you have like a lot of work to do, take a micro step, take a small step today. Yeah. It's not so much of, getting to the goal one day. And I know there's so many people when it comes to fitness, I want results tomorrow, not in a week. Right.
Absolutely. And, I think we sort of self-sabotage ourselves that way. I can't tell you how many people, I have an initial call with, and they're finally coming to me because they did all the things, right? They changed their diet. They changed their workout routine. They started a whole new supplement regimen all in the same week, right? And then they feel even worse. And they don't know what's working, what's not working. They're overwhelmed, right? And I try desperately to pull back 10,000 feet. Okay, let's just change this one thing. See if we can get you some results. Okay, when that stops working, we're going to layer in this next piece. We just have to kind of slow it down and be a little bit more methodical about how we're applying these principles.
Very true. I think at how we are when we're like younger and we are super mobile. Like, I have young children and they're running around and they're doing things and I have to be able to keep up. And I'm only in my mid-30s, so I have plenty more time to run around and to do everything that they needed me to do. But I know at some point, maybe when I'm 60 or 70, it's going to be more challenging for me to do the things that I did when I was younger. So that idea of health for me now is like, am I comparing myself to who I was, or am I looking at who I am today? And it leads us into the conversation of our evolving health, because I know many people when they're in their late 20s or maybe even their 30s, they start to get this idea within themselves that I am not the same person as I was when I was 16, 17, 18. I can't do the things that I used to do. I'm not as flexible. I can't lift as much weight. Maybe my elbows hurt or my knees hurt. And then that is almost like an excuse for them to say, well, what is even the point to me trying, because I'm already this messed up. So we do have to look at the idea of evolving health. And I would love for you to give us some understanding on that.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, I think that instead of taking the aches and pains, the fatigue, as a sign that, oh, we're just getting older and it's time to move on to the next phase of things. Instead, we need to think of that as a symptom of what's not working, right? I've been fit for most of my life externally, right? If you look at me as an adult from ages 20 to 47, relatively fit. However, I feel the best of my life right now at 47, almost 48 years old. That's not by mistake. I've had shoulder injuries. Like I said, I have osteoporosis. I have arthritis in my neck and in both of my hips, right? But somehow use those as the impetus to figure out what can I tweak to see if I can feel a little bit better, And again, I made these incremental changes. So I think instead of using it as an excuse to get out of doing what you really want to do, let's use it as fuel to the fire to figure out why do I have these achy knees? This isn't acceptable at 35 years old, right? Why does my rotator cuff hurt all the time? Okay, well, let me go see, is it an alignment issue? Is it that my diet isn't correct and I have inflammation that I'm causing on a daily basis? Am I getting enough, fish oil in my diet? Things like this are just, they're simple solutions to big problems, but you won't figure them out if you don't start investigating. While I can only work with, small groups of people at a time, let alone one-on-one, that's why I wrote this book, because I want people to have a blueprint to uncover the root issues of what's going on with them. What does that symptom potentially mean?
Very true. I like the idea of just giving people the blueprint so they can do some investigative work and figure out what is the ailment or what is the problem that's causing issues that they can remedy if they want to. And I encourage people to seek a specialist. I understand we live in the age of technology and we can go online and we can get instant answers. But let me tell you, when you work with someone like who has been doing this, has been working with people, who has seen people come from nothing and like how much progress they make with their health and their fitness, let me tell you, those people are worth their weight in gold. Because they can see, hey, like this is where you're going and I see where you're going. Let's stop that. Let's do some of these exercises, these movements, or let me give you some of this knowledge and wisdom. And then from there, you're going to start to see, oh, wait, I'm starting to feel better already. And it's almost like you have that one person looking like, within yourself and saying, hey, I can see your blind spots. And we all have them. And I always tell people, like, so you need someone.
Yeah, that objectivity is not easy to come by for any of us, and it's important to employ some strategies when you're trying to figure out. It's so hard when you're in it, to see what's really going on in your world. And there's I give some discussion about journaling in there, specific journaling, like going back in time. Okay, when did this symptom start? Okay, what was happening in my life at that time? And what are the things that have ensued since then? Be daily journaling about, your aches and pains. People tell me all the time, oh, I just have constant bloating and gas. Okay, well, could we take a little journal and talk about what you ate the last 2 meals, every time this is happening? Maybe we can figure out where the culprit is here, If people don't want to spend money on lab testing for food sensitivities or gut function, whatever, that's fine. We can do a lot of this without cash flow. It's just paper to paper to just to get that objectivity. It has to be out of you in order to see it.
When I'm in the gym, sometimes we'll talk to like the older, goers to the gym, and they'll be in their face, and I'm always just asking them like their secrets because they look so great, and I'm like, what is your secret? And they will say, you got to do this, you got to do that. And they typically say one of the things you said earlier, I'm in the best shape of my life today than I was when I was younger. And I'm just thinking in my mind, like, how does that work? Like, shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't you be the best self when you're younger and then you kind of go downhill? And I think that's just kind of like the idea that, that we have growing up and growing older. And I think about a story of it was like a businessman, and he had his parents. And of course, when he was younger, the kids walk real slow. So the parents have to walk to their kids pace and things like that. And then eventually somewhere in between their adolescence and they're able to keep up with their parents, maybe they're able to run a little bit further. And eventually they're adults and they're able to go way ahead of their parents. And now their parents are slowing down a little bit. Now they're not able to keep up anymore. So that connection that they had with their parents was mom and dad was ahead of me or they kept up with me. Now it's I either have to drop down to their level or have to get them back to my level. And we somewhere, whether we know it or not, typically it's subconsciously, we make that decision for ourselves and for our parents. Oh, mom is getting old, dad is getting old. And then we just associate getting old with becoming unhealthier in a sense, right? We are not as mobile.
Yeah.
We are not as invigorated to do the things. But I have found from, speaking with the people in the gym, it's more of a mindset in that they equip themselves with the knowledge and then they learn from that knowledge and then create the wisdom to give themselves a better health than they have ever had in their life.
Right, right. So, there's two things to that, to what you said there. Is there's a relativity, right? So even though I was outwardly fit in my 20s, inwardly, I was miserable. I was in a bad state of mind. I was hating myself all the time, starving myself, mean to myself, right? And now in my late 40s, I'm like, you're kind of amazing. This is awesome what we're doing here. Let's keep this going. I look in the mirror and I have positive thoughts as opposed to what I did, even though the body is not all that different necessarily. Mm-hmm. So there's a mind shift. I think that, and I, from talking to my friends and colleagues, as we get a little bit older, we appreciate ourselves a little bit more. We're a little bit kinder to ourselves and we care a little bit less about what other people think, which I think is a crucial linchpin in this puzzle. But the other piece of that is, as we get older, are we going to slow down? Absolutely. Of course, we're going to be slower at 90 than we were at 50. That's not hard to think about. But that doesn't mean that the quality of your movement necessarily has to suffer. That doesn't mean that your efforts need to pull back, right? Your strategies may change. The way you do things, maybe you walk fast instead of sprint, right? But you can make those adjustments. And so relative to where other people are at your same age, I mean, I meet other people who are my age and I go, I think I need to stay on this path, like I don't feel like I look like that age group, and, that sounds big of me to say, but I work hard, and I want, like, my parents are in great shape, and I see other men who are 77, 78 years old, like my father is. They're not walking 5 miles with a dog like he is, they're not going to the gym every other day. Like, it's remarkable what he's doing. It's relative, but it's also what's happening in our minds and how we're judging ourselves is a really big piece of that. And, it's like, yes, we're going to age if we're lucky, and we just got to make that the best journey we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a reflection of who you believe you are, because if you just give yourself this identity of being old and not able to do the things you used to do, then you're going to be old and not be able to do the things that you once did. But if you give yourself this invigoration, and typically this happens automatically, like if you're a grandparent, for example, they see their grandkids. And there's actually been a study about that, where if you are around children, I believe it's like 4 and younger, because they're running around, they're doing all this crazy stuff, you are more youthful, not only mentally, but physically. Like, you're doing the things that you would have never done before if that kid wasn't present. So it's very interesting how we can see just the dynamic of how the youth can also benefit, the people who have already gone through the walks of life. But just because you have walked down a path and maybe you feel like that path is not for you, don't despair and say, well, I'm already this far, I'm already this unhealthy. And I can't tell you how many people, they get to 40 or they get to 50 and they spent all their working life making all this money because that's what they felt was what they needed to do. And now they're spending all of that hard earned money to get back their health because they realize at that age, health was or is so much more important because now they get to see like, oh, wow, like I didn't appreciate me being able to walk up a flight of stairs. And now I'm having a hard time walking up that flight of stairs, or me being able to walk around the block and not be out of breath. And it gives a different perspective on life.
Yeah. And also aging has changed quite a bit in the last 20 to 30 years. When I was a kid, my parents and their friends used to throw these over the hill parties, which don't exist anymore. Okay. Someone turned 40, they would throw this party and everything would be themed black, right? Because you're done. You're going to be old now. Game over. Literally, like everybody threw that party. That's not a thing anymore. My friends and I don't have over the hill parties. It's like, oh, you're about to turn 50? Let's go. Right? Like, I know people who are just way more on fire at 50 than they ever were at 30, right? We're just hitting our stride. And we're aging differently. People are getting hormone replacement now, which was, sadly not available to my mom's generation because of flawed health studies. And we're just not accepting feeling less than awesome, right? We're working longer. My dad still runs a company by himself. At 77 years old. He has no plans for retirement whatsoever. And you know what? It's not because of the money. He just like, that's the way he goes. He doesn't want to sit on the couch or go play golf all day. That's not a thing for him. So just, it's a different, Gen X as elderly people, we are going to be a very interesting group of old people because we're just different, and I hope that my daughter's generation, the Gen Zs, they're much more health conscious than I ever remember being. I mean, she's 14 years old. She goes to the gym with her friends. They all play different sports together. Very, very active and seek health and wellness. I think that's phenomenal. I really hope it's just a sign of things to come as the generations move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. The future is definitely bright. We can be optimistic for all of the endeavors people are taking toward better health because they're realizing how important their health is, because we, especially the younger generations or the newer generations, they are very aware of what is happening in the world around their parents. Like their level of perspection is at an all-time high because they're looking at every little thing and they're saying, I don't like that. I don't like this. And I'm going to make sure that this doesn't happen to me. So they're very aware of themselves, and that's a good place to be. But just because you are aware of yourself, it doesn't mean that you are this lone warrior that you have to do it yourself, and this is where I tell people you should always find someone that you resonate with, someone who can be a guide, a mentor, a coach that can say, you know what, I see where you're going, and I'm going to help you get to where you need to be a lot sooner than if you did it by yourself. And, like you can have all the knowledge in the world, you could read all the books, but when you give yourself wisdom, when you give yourself someone who has walked the walk and talked the talk, you're going to be in a better place a lot sooner. Like I said, and people, they value time so much today, it's a no brainer. But then again, there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there, and I'm not mad at you, but.
And that's why I wrote the book, but anyone who is considering, if you go to my website, dfitlife.com, if you even think maybe you want to work with me, sign up for a discovery call. There's buttons all over the website to do so. And we'll chat for free, just you and me, 30, 45 minutes. Let's talk about your journey. What do you have going on? Let's see if it's a good synergy. Because it's just as important for me to have that connection with my clients as it is for them to have it with me, right? If we don't jive, it isn't going to work. But if we do, there is magic in there that happens. I mean, truly magic. Whether if you're going to do it on your own, let me give you the blueprint to try to get there, Not everything in there is going to work for you, but there'll be a few nuggets that will. And if you want me to hold your hand with you and walk you through this process, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I was just thinking, like, if I go online and I buy a blueprint to build a house, I wouldn't be able to build any house.
Me neither. My husband could, but not me. No.
Yeah, very good. And I think that's a lovely segue for you to give us a takeaway that you would like everyone to have and to remember you by. And then, of course, please, once again, tell the audience where they can find you, website, social medias, etc.
Sure. Number one thing is don't be stuck where you are. There are other options. And it just takes one small change that you commit to start to see a result. If it doesn't work, don't give up, but switch gears and try one other thing. Like just keep it simple. But being stuck, you don't have to do that. You know, we can get you out of that. You'd like to learn more about what I'm doing. My website again is dfitlife.com, FITLIFE, dfitlife. I am on all my social handles. Instagram and TikTok are the number one as I post. So d.forrest with 2 R's. Both of those I post several times a week, and I try to give people, you know, lots of usable information, things that they can go away from all the time. Email me, whatever. And if you have read the book, I just love hearing how people are enjoying it, what changes they've made, the results that they're getting. Please reach out to me. I would love that. The book's available anywhere books are sold. It's on Barnes and Noble, on my website if you'd like a signed copy. Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll definitely make it easy for everyone. All those links will be in the description box below. So just go down there, click where you need to go. I know everyone has their favorites. Someone likes Facebook. Someone likes Instagram. Someone just wants to do everything from Google on the website page. Hey, there's something for everybody here. I encourage you to find what works for you, because when it comes to your health and your wellness, you do have to do the work to figure out what is best for you. And if you have tried fad diets, if you have tried going to the gym and hit workouts and it wasn't for you, it just means that you have not found what you need to find yet. I encourage you to check out what Dee Dee is doing so she can help you find that passion, that why that is going to help you get to the next level in life. So I do want to thank you, Dee Dee Forrest, for coming on
Thank you,
spending
Michael.
some time and just talking about your work today.
It's super fun.